Hello, my fellow readers. This is iDarkSymphony777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, we are doing Scootalong to the Cheer in the School Talent Show. The second story is going to be a reading, so let's just get through this thing. I don't know what to say about this story. It exists. There. I did it. I reviewed this story. It exists. I don't know what to say about this story. That literally is just not summed up to in the phrase of, oh, we didn't have a story for Charlie. Let's just make one. Because this is like the first story where Charlie's like the main character. Granted, there is a hard bargain which comes after these two stories, but this one came first, and it's like, this exists. They're fun. Okay. Okay. So the story is basically just Charlie was working one day at her school with a bunch of students, and then she kept getting hurt by Scootalong accidentally, and she kind of became this picture right here. She gets to let's see, let's sum it up. So she gets her eye poked by a paper airplane, and somehow her eye gets a paper cut. Don't ask me how that's possible. One of her ooze get dipped in liquid rainbow. Parts of her hair get ripped off, and I believe is that everything. And she also gets oh yeah. She gets hit in the head by a baseball. I knew I forgot one. She gets hit in the head by a baseball. She gets glue in her hair and rips off a clump. Her hoof gets dipped in liquid rainbow. Don't ask me how. She gets a paper cut in her eye. Don't ask me how that. And then she gets covered in mud. Oh, poor Charlie. And so she sets up a parent-teacher conference with Scootalong's father, and they just talk. And meanwhile, Scootalong's feeling really bad, and so she convinces Diamond Tiara to like, hey, I want to make a gift for Charlie. So it basically instead of being like, oh, it's a comedy thing, it's just, oh, Scootalong feels bad for her teacher, and it's just Scootalong and Tiara just going around making a gift basket. I mean, if you're into that touchy feeling stuff, that's fine. The problem is, where do you hear this? Is just a comedy. This is a comedy. There's, I don't know. There's other genres. I mean, there's random. There's general. Where's general? Where is general? There's random. There's general. I mean, it doesn't really extend in the comedy past the first chapter. I mean, if you're into Diamond Tiara acting like a tsundere, fine. Again, this just exists. Like, I remember what I said back when I talked about how Griffin Over the Line and Ill Communication were like the weakest stories that are like adaptations of actual episodes. Yeah, this is the weakest story that's original. Like, I don't have much to say about this story because it just exists. That's really the best thing I can say about this. It just exists. I mean, character development, Scootalong feels bad. We find out Diamond Tiara is a tsundere for Scootalong. Like, she's just acting haughty and stuff, but she's like, "Ooh, I want to ride that scooter. I want to cuddle with Scootaloo. No, I gotta say something. Move it, blank Frank. Diamond Tiara, why did you say that?" But that's it. There's just, hey, Shirley kind of feels bad because she kind of thought Scootaloo was kind of a jerk and thus overreacted. There's just nothing. I don't have anything to say about it. I don't have. I just like no. No. Let's just, you know what? Let's move on. I don't have anything to say about it. I honestly wouldn't recommend it. Even like from a general storytelling standpoint, it doesn't really offer anything to the rest of the series. Like, because Charlie, until Hard Bargain, like, doesn't have anything going for her. Granted, so does Lyra, but at least Lyra had like helping hands, like a couple others, and also musicians and dreamers. Like, at least Lyra had that. I say every single other ponies had like that, but Charlie, and this is what she got shunted with. Yeah, let's just move to the next story. All right, I moved on. I'm moving on to tell you I'm moving on. I just don't know what to say about the previous story. Let's just talk about this one. And a loud ring filled the air as the sun rose up upon the small town of Ponyville. Diamond Tiara grumbled to herself, waving her hoof around to hit her alarm clock. It took her a few seconds to realize her alarm clock was not next to her, as it usually was. It took a few more seconds to realize it was not the clock that was misplaced, but rather herself that was misplaced. Okay. Her eyes slowly opened, the cursed sun rays hitting her in the eyes. She slowly lifted herself off the floor. She began to wonder why exactly she was on the floor until she saw it, a single orange feather. And suddenly the events of yesterday flooded into her mind. That and the realization that Scootaloo could potentially be coming over to her house at any second, and Diamond Tiara looked like a mess because of all the excitement scootering yesterday, not to mention the fact that she still had no idea what her act was going to be for the school talent show, and Scootaloo was coming, and just Buster! Diamond Tiara yelled, running out the room, but not before carefully placing the feather in the top drawer of her dresser, where she knew it would absolutely be safe. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Diamond Tiara sat upon her plush couch in her lavishly designed living room, her mane and fur freshly cleaned and brushed, an expensive-looking purple dress made of fine silk, adorning her frame, her trademark tiara sitting upon her head, freshly polished. Diamond Tiara's eyes remained focused upon the front door, waiting for a certain some pony to approach it and knock upon it. Those Poster had attempted to inform her young charge that most children wouldn't be up at 8 in the morning on a Saturday, but Diamond Tiara had quickly and summarily ignored her. That had been 2 hours ago, and Diamond Tiara was beginning to suspect that Dustbuster was right. If Scootaloo even decided to show up at all, young Philly thought bitterly to herself. Sighing softly, she moved to lift herself off the pillow, intent to head back to her room when a noise filled the air. Oh, to her more moon and stars above Scootaloo. Deep breath, easy. Just because she's over at your house with the full intention of spending the majority of the day with you is no reason to be nervous. Diamond Tiara shook her head, finishing her inner monologue from her head as she approached the door. Opening it at a pace she hoped appeared to be normal speed one would open a door at. It occurred to her that there may be, in fact, somebody else at the door instead of the Pegasus in question. Fortunately for every pony involved, Scootaloo stood on the other side of the door, a well-rested look on her face, and looking as beautiful and energetic, as hip and happy and amazing as ever. About time you showed up. Come on, we have work to do. Diamond Tiara said, welcoming her crush as nicely as one could with a somewhat haughty point. Scootaloo chose to merely follow the hoof. Diamond Tiara noticed that Scootaloo's scooter was parked to the side, leaning against a house. The wagon behind it, holding what looked like, of all things, a pair of bongos. Diamond Tiara chose not to ask why Scootaloo went through the trouble of bringing a pair of bongos. I merely walked back into her house, taking a seat on the comfortable couch, and offered her guest a seat next to her, but still not as close as she would have liked. So, DT, what's the plan for the talent show? Scootalong asked, sounding more relaxed than she had during the entirety of yesterday. Diamond Tiara froze at the question. I never came up with an idea for an act. The young Earth Pony steeled herself, ready for the incoming complaints as she weakly admitted, I actually never had an idea of what we do during the talent show. Diamond Tiara admitted, looking away. It's okay if you want to leave, she muttered weakly. Her spirits lifted the instant Scootalong spoke. That's no problem. That just means we can come up with something totally awesome to knock every pony's socks off, she stated. The excitement expanded in her voice. ADT, you're good at dancing and stuff, right? Scootalong asked. Diamond Tiara nodded, all the while wondering what kind of ponies wear socks. I determined that Scootalong would look adorable in some socks. Great! Scootalong yelled, jumping off the couch, walking back to the front door. She exited the building, which worried Diamond Tiara for a moment, but soon came back walking in. Yes, I'm wording these badly on purpose. To keep up the ham, the pair of bongos from earlier balanced on her back. She set the bongos down on the floor carefully and sat behind them, placing one hoof on each drumhead. I figured you could dance and stuff. I could sing a song, accompanied by a cool beat. Want to hear a song? An opportunity to hear your melodious voice serenading me as I dance upon the stage? Absolutely. I guess. Diamond Tiara said dismissively. Scootalong raised her hooves above her head and took a deep breath. There is no way you are doing that at the school talent show, or anywhere, for that matter. I forbid you from playing the bongos or singing in my presence ever again. How could she such a melodious voice sound so horrid? It makes no sense. Do you understand, Scootalong? Diamond Tiara stared at Scootalong with the most powerful death glare she could manage. Scootalong withered underneath its gaze. I understand. We'll think of something else, Scootalong said, muttering under her breath how deity wouldn't know cool music if it hit her with a sonic reboot. I'll let you come up with the next idea. Scootalong's gaze shifted around the room, trying very hard not to meet the very, very angry gaze of the very, very angry young rich pony. Fortunately, the moment of anger passed as Diamond Tiara began to think of ideas for an act. Okay, DT, think. One of us is the most amazing filly in Ponyville, and the other is the most amazing filly in the entirety of Equestria. There must be something you two can do together. She suggested dancing earlier. A vivid image suddenly formed in Diamond Tiara's head. A ballroom, draped in various shades of red, the lighting very dim. In the middle stood two ponies, one a pink-furred, purple and white-maned pony, dressed in a beautiful wedding dress. The other, an orange-furred, purple-maned Pegasus, dressed in a sharp black tuxedo. The two joined together and danced a slow waltz, whispering sweet nothing to each other as the time passed. And then, as the dance came to its end, the two looked deeply into each other's eyes, and their muzzles drew closer and closer until... Hey, DT, you're drooling. Again. You really should get that checked out. DT flinched as she was quickly broken out of the finish line. Right before the good part. Achoo! Trixie, why are you sneezing? Foreshadowing? She lamented before wiping the drool from her muzzle. She then dared to ask a simple question, highly inspired by her fantasy. Hey, Scootalong, do you know how to dance? Diamond Tiara, deep down hoping and praying that Scootalong would say yes. Kind of. I mean, I never took lessons or anything, but I could learn to dance if I really tried. Why? You have something in mind? Perfect. Diamond Tiara thought to herself, a wide smile coming to her face. The sun was setting over the small village of Ponyville, and soon the stars would cover up the sky in their majestic pattern. A small stage was set up in front of the house of the representative of the Night Court Luna. Slowly, ponies began to set up blankets and filling them into the ground, while other ponies, the vast majority being young foals, approached the stage itself. Heading backstage, there was a sense of enjoyment and excitement filling the air. In a short time, the sun had set, the moon had risen high into the sky, and the first stars had begun to light the sky. And a lone mare walked onto the stage, and spoke loudly and clearly, drawing the attention of the gathered parents and family of young performers who would soon grace the stage. Fillies and Jenny Colts, family, and friends of the performers. The great and powerful Trixie welcomes you to the annual school talent show. Before we bring out our first act, the great and powerful Trixie would like to perform a feat of mind-blowing proportions for you all. Watch and be amazed as I told you could perform to the audience after the children perform. A voice from stage right interrupted Trixie's speech. Showmare looked as if she was going to argue with the voice, but her eyes filled with something that could be described as worried, as her eyes traveled towards the source of the voice. But before that, I would like to pass the stage over to Everpony's favorite school teacher to introduce the first act of the night. Please give a warm applause to Miss Charlie. Trixie said quickly before exiting stage left. From stage right, a familiar magenta mare entered, sporting a black turban with white trim, which, unbeknownst to the gathered crowd, Charlie had won from a Saddle Arabian in a slightly crooked game of poker. How she did it? The world may never know, but let's just say it involves Big Mac punching someone in the face. Which looked stylish and conveniently hid Charlie's mane from Everpony. Thanks for coming out tonight, parents. I'd like to apologize for the sudden change of venue, but there were some complications. Suffice to say, students will no longer be allowed to handle sound equipment at school functions without adult supervision at the future. I'd like to thank Representative Trixie so much for gathering the stage set up. Excuse me, I was burping. For getting the stage set up so quickly. Without further ado, I'd like to announce the first act for tonight. Backstage, things were nowhere near as orderly and calm as they were on stage. Has everybody seen my costume? Is there time for makeup? What do you mean the nitroglycerin hasn't arrived yet? I won't explode the stage this time! Can I please use a microphone? And in one corner, two fillies were having an argument. I don't wear earrings. Scootalong stared sternly, staring disdainfully at the simple black earring with some orange stone in the middle that sat on Diamond Tiara's hoof. You have to wear it. Your outfit isn't complete without it. Diamond Tiara said, a mix of anger and inspiration filling her voice. And come on, I'm actually letting you keep your outfit. So you can keep the earring too. Now wear it, Diamond Tiara finished. Scootalong brought her hoof to her chin, carefully thinking of her response. It only took about a second. Need argument? No. But this wasn't actually for the outfit for the show. This was picked out especially for you. Scootalong, you're wearing this earring, and that is final! Diamond Tiara yelled, louder than she intended. No. Please? Diamond Tiara asked meekly, mustering all the abilities she had called upon so many times in the past, to put her best puppy dog eyes on, and pouting ever so slightly with her lower lip. Her daddy had no defense against this tactic. Scootalong seems a bit disturbed by the display more than anything, but the end result was the same. Fine. Don't stare at me like that. Looks freaky. Scootalong said, grabbing the earring out of Diamond Tiara's hoof, and quickly walked off for fear of losing her sanity. She accepted my gift. I hope she likes how it looks. Oh, who I'm kidding. She'll love it. I know she will. Speaking of which, how long until we perform? Wait, who's actually performing right now? Come one, come all, come see the greatest magician trio to ever grace Equestria. Equestria, come see the great and powerful Dinky! Yes, this is the thing that's happening. Deal with it. Dinky! Dinky stood on the stage wearing a red wizard's hat and cape, bespeckled with crescent moons, front hoof raised high into the sky, mimicking the common pose Trixie often took when she announced her presence on stage. However, she was unable to keep her balance, and she fell backwards, landing upon her flank. Her hat became slightly askew. Sorry, she said to the crowd, looking apologetic. The crowd was instantly won over by the cuteness of the display. She really should have stuck with the cuteness. And now I shall be joined by my two assistants, Snip and Snails. Snips, wearing a magician's top hat, came onto the stage, rolling a long box onto the stage. The box would have been unremarkable, except for the fact that Snail's head was sticking out on one end of it. Atop the box had a very sharp-looking handsaw. And now, with a few magic words, I will saw my assistant in half. And with more magic words, put him back together good as new. Featherweight breathed in deeply, his back legs crossed, his back leaning against the wall behind him, his forelegs sitting in his lap. He had to calm himself down if he wanted to focus on a somewhat overly complicated act. His concentration attempts at calming himself from his stage fright were quickly dashed by a very pain-sounding scream, and then what sounded like the representative yelling, I never taught her to do that! I thought she was going to pull a rabbit out of her head! I'm sure your little brother is fine. Please don't hurt me! It was a while before the talent show could proceed to a second act, on account of a lone Pegasus in the crowd reacting somewhat badly to the screams emanating from the would-be Saw victim, who was actually never in any real danger in the first place. All three foals involved would eventually apologize for attempting to make the act more exciting by adding in magically enhanced screams. The great and powerful Trixie would deny any involvement with the attack that occurred on stage. If you want to sue her, please consult Monsieur Bourbon, PhD and STFU. Diamond Tiara was standing just off stage, boredly watching the acts go by. Between the failed first act, the skinny dweeb standing there just before leaving without any explanation, and two idiots whose entire act was just reciting poetry while skating around stage, Diamond Tiara was confident that her, Scooter Lee's act, would be considered the best in show. When she saw the next act was going to be that self-important Apple Filly and her nerdy friend with the lisp, she knew her and Skitterloo would be the act that would finally entertain the crowd. Since they were up against after those two, she walked away, stopping in front of a fully length mirror. Diamond Tiara carefully analyzed her outfit, making sure everything went together perfectly. Diamond Tiara's trademark tiara was, in a rarity, absent from her hood, instead being replaced by a bright red rose tucked into her mane. The red of the rose was matched only by the frilly Calabrian flamenco dancer's dress she wore. Embroidered on the back of the dress was the design of a rose, matching the one held in her mane. Pleased that everything was perfect with her outfit, as it should be, Diamond Tiara took a moment to see if her dance partner was ready. She took a curiosity glance at the backstage area, hoping to catch a glimpse of her Pegasus. Upon seeing Feather, no hair, orange Pegasus anyway, she was worried that Scootalong had ditched her. She began to walk around, abandoning her activity of watching the competition. It was about 5 minutes later that she thought to, instead of wandering around aimlessly and bugging the other foals about where her partner was, to actually check the dressing rooms. Well, Scootalong was more than likely changing in her outfit. As if coincidence itself had planned it, the moment the red-dressed filly had approached the dressing room, the door flew wide open, and she was greeted to a breathtaking sight. The orange Pegasus also wore a Calabrian dancer's outfit, but unlike her Earth Pony dance partner, this outfit was one that was traditionally be worn by stallions. A white shirt, buttons lining the front of it, covered the filly's barrow and forelegs, a simple black vest worn over her vest, one over the shirt. Scootalong's flank and back legs were covered by a pair of black pants. Around the filly's waist was a sash, its color matching Diamond Tiara's dress. Atop the filly's head, she wore a wide-rimmed black hat, a single robe sitting upon it, and hanging from the filly's right ear was a very simple-looking earring, with a very simple orange stone in the center. Diamond Tiara felt the blush coming to her cheeks as she took in the sight. Without thinking, she began to speak. Scootalong, you look so... A thunderous applause erupted from the audience, breaking Diamond Tiara out of her trance, of which she had both relieved to be broken out of, and at the same time absolutely livid that she was so close to finally admitting something, only to have the chance taken away. In her moment of frustration, she had noticed that Scootalong had gone off to investigate the cause of the applause. Shaking her head at the thoughts that filled it, she followed the orange Pegasus, doing her best not to be distracted by how cute she looked in that outfit. When the two eventually got to the side of the stage, just out of sight of the audience, did they see that the applause was because of the act on stage. And, much to Diamond Tiara's horror, they were just warming up. We had to follow that, Diamond Tiara yelled, incredulous at the display she just saw, and the applause that was still refusing to wear down anytime soon, even as Apple Bloom and Twist walked off stage, carrying their various props with them in two large wagons, filled with the brim with all manners of oddities. Diamond Tiara would never admit this, but even she was impressed with the trick they did with the spinning plates, the loop-de-hoop, or whatever it was Apple Bloom called it, and the chess set. But all that was besides the point. Diamond Tiara had to face the simple fact that through curse or circumstance, her act was to follow an amazing act. Diamond Tiara sighed. Scootalong is probably as nervous as I am right now. How are we supposed to get best in show now? Why would any pony be excited about a dance after seeing that? It was at that moment that Diamond Tiara felt a coof come to rest upon her shoulder. She looked up, coming face to face with Scootalong, who was doing her best to hide her nerves with a wide smile. Don't be so nervous. We practiced all week for this. Every pony will love her act. Who's she trying to convince? Diamond Tiara thought to herself. But thanks. I needed that. Of course they will. Just don't screw up, okay?
The applause of the crowd was loud and appreciative. Diamond Tiara and Scootalong, sweating ever so slightly due to the combination of nerves, bright spotlights, and how physically exhausted their routine was, bowed deeply in thanks before exiting stage left and collapsing on a pair of pillows that were left just off stage for the sole purpose of rest. Diamond Tiara was so tired she didn't even notice that when Scootalong leaned against her. ATT. Yeah, that was kind of cool. Thanks. Unbeknownst to the two of them, Featherweight, after his empty performance, was instructed to take backseat pictures of for the full Fleer Express. He happened to snap a picture of the two fillies resting together. Bebop stood on the stage, an impressive-looking sound system at her side, a microphone in her hoof, a short distance away, still visibly on stage from the audience. Charlie stood, her front hoof hovering above a big red button conveniently labeled off. The infamously loud filly for once spoke softly into the microphone. Thank you for giving me the chance to perform. I will now sing to you a classic song. She bowed before taking a deep breath and began to sing very lightly. Tractor! I'm sorry, I had to laugh. The sound of the filly's voice reverberated loudly, washing its noise over the crowd. Charlie jammed her hoof onto the big red button, putting a stop to that dreaded sound system that caused potential hearing loss to the gatherers' crowds. Silence reigned over Ponyville for a second, until the sound started off slowly and quietly, bled into the silence. The sound of cracks slowly forming into a window came to the ears of the gathered ponies, ending in an all-resounding crack, followed by a crinkle of glass hitting the ground. Slowly, ever so slowly, a wave of ponies all turned their heads in perfect synchronization, turning to the source of the noise, and beheld a very familiar sight. The front window of the residency of the representative night court broken and shattered. A single cry rang out from the gathered ponies. Why is it that only my window broke? The eyes also saw a pony, dragging a cart full of with panes of glass, approach the broken window and begin the process of repairing it. Are you stalking my window? The reporter pony looked up from his work and spoke in a soft voice, which inexplicably was heard perfectly by everyone in the crowd. Mr. Representative, your window is putting my kid through college. Also, the fact they replaced it with sugar glass. For my act, I like to throw a pot. Alua flitted nervously, seeing all those eyes on her, particularly the eyes that were staring at the fact that she had a horn and wings. Mustering up what little courage she still had, she took a small clump of clay in a noticeably shaky aura of levitation, and floated it over a pottery wheel that had been set up on stage. With a soft grunt, she threw the lump onto the center of the wheel, as she then sat upon the small stool, and began to pump the pedal on the wheel, making the wheel spin slowly. I mean, that's not really throwing a pot, that's making a pot. I know this is interrupting, but I'm just pointing out the facts. A smile immediately came to the winged unicorn's filly's face as she began to mold the lump into a pot. The nervousness that shook her body was all but gone, and her eyes were filled with a look of pure, uninterrupted dedication. Alula barely registered the fact that her classmates were cheering her on from just off stage, until one cheer managed to break her concentration. Yay, Princess Alula! Alula once again became painfully aware of how much attention was being paid to her horn and wings, and her nerves got out on her as she ducked behind the potter wheel, in the process hitting the pedal incredibly hard, sending the clay flying off the wheel. Well, and she threw the pot, technically. A second later, there was a very loud shriek from stage left, and a very angry-looking earth pony filly in a red dress came onto the stage, fire in her eyes, a lump of clay in her mane. Alula saw the anger in the eyes of the local school bully. All nervousness was forgotten by a much more basic instinct, self-preservation. Alula ran off stage, and Diamond Tiara quickly gave chase. Charlie rushed onto the stage, quickly said to the gathered audience, "Thank you for coming to see the annual school talent show. The winners will be announced momentarily," before rushing off stage, yelling at Diamond Tiara not to hurt any pony. Charlie looked around backstage. A horrifying mental image of Diamond Tiara beating up Alula filling her head as she ran through the backstage area. The angry filly and her victim were nowhere in sight. which did not help the image in Carolee's head, which was slowly getting worse and worse the more nightmarish as the search went on. Miss Carolee! A voice, which the magenta teacher instantly recognized as belonging to Scootalong, came rushing to her. Miss Carolee! It's Dame Tiara! She's in the dressing room, and Carolee didn't wait to hear the rest of her student was seeing. Fearing the worst, she ran to the dressing room, opened up with a slam, and began to yell, Diamond Tiara! Don't you dare! Her voice caught in her throat as she saw the scene in front of her. Diamond Tiara was laying on the floor, her eyes closed, a wide smile on her face. If Carolee had guessed, the young filly looked as she was having a very happy dream. Alula was right to the would-be bully, a short stick grasped in her aura of magic, poking Diamond Tiara every so often. Carolee stared at the scene in front of her, her mind failing to fully comprehend what had happened. She attempted to verbalize her disbelief, to perhaps obtain information on what happened, but she found her vocal cords also temporarily failing. Instead, only able to vocalize a single word. What? The word seemed to have an immediate effect on Alula, who suddenly looked up, noticing the teacher was there. Miss Carolee, I think she's dead or something. One moment she was screaming and yelling like she usually is, and Scootalong came running and said something to her. And suddenly Diamond Tiara just kind of froze up, and now she's like this, Alula said, poking Diamond Tiara once more with the stick. What? Scootalong came rushing into the room, a worried look on her face. She gonna be okay? She yelled. The Pegasus filly, noting the blank look on our teacher's face, poked the teacher in the leg to get her attention. Carolee shook her head and managed to ask a simple question. What did you say to Diamond Tiara before she went like this? All I said was that it was an accident and she shouldn't be mad and I wouldn't even be willing to help brush her mane to make her look all nice and stuff. That seemed to elicit a response from the dazed filly, who giggled quietly. What? Diamond Tiara was sitting in Scootalong's wagon as the town of Ponyville was speeding past. She ignored all that as she stared disdainfully at the ribbon she had received from the talent show. Best costume. Not best in show. Not greatest show ever. Not even cutest couple. What annoyed her even more is that Scootalong obviously deserved the award more than she did, especially with how adorable she looked in her outfit. But soon, far too soon, the scooter came to a stop in front of Diamond Tiara's house. Sighing, Diamond Tiara jumped out of her wagon and began to slowly walk to her front door. So I guess this is it. I was able to perform on stage with Scootalong. I spent the past week spending a lot of time with her in order to prepare, and I wish it could go on forever. I wonder if I could find some kind of dance competition we could enter together. Diamond Tiara muttered a simple good night to the orange Pegasus as she opened the door. Before she had a chance to close it, Scootalong spoke up. Hey, DT, me and Sweetie Belle are going to be swimming at the lake tomorrow. Would you like to come? Oh yes, Scootalong, I would absolutely be delighted to go swimming with you. Meh, if you insist, Diamond Tiara said haughtily. I expect you to pick me up when you're ready to go swimming. Diamond Tiara put a hoof on the doorknob to close it, but she turned back to Scootalong and said one last thing. Hey, Scootalong, we did good at the talent show. You should do this again sometime. And with that, she shut the door before Scootalong could notice how far red her face was. I can't believe I said that. That is a school talent show. It was very hilarious. 5 out of 5. Nothing more to say besides keep breaking Trixie's window pane. Do it. Keep doing it. Pay your son through college with the power of scam artist window repairman.